Hello students, today I am going to tell you the question answers of the chapter number 6, The Haunted House from Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So what happened in this story? So we are going to solve the question answers of chapter number 6, The Haunted House. So how can we do that? First question was about synonyms from the box. We have to match it. So basically these are the meanings of the words. So what is the meaning of the comrade? It's companion, tavern, inn, built, constructed, urged, pressed, unhappiness, misery, broached, mentioned. If let me repeat it again. So words meanings: comrade, companion, tavern, inn, built, constructed, urged, pressed, unhappiness, misery, bruised, mentioned. So what is next? Antonyms. Match words in the list with antonyms from the box. So words antonyms: discourage, approving, unhurried, haste, modern, ancient, neat, wrecked, unawareness, familiarity, approving, critical. Let me repeat it. Discouraged, approving, unhurried, haste, modern, ancient, neat, wrecked, unawareness, familiarity, approving, critical. So moving towards next slide, and it is about making sentences. Put these words into the correct order to make sentences. To a Tom, burning go and somewhere has desire to treasure for hidden dog. Tom has a burning desire to go somewhere and dig for hidden treasure. I have taken from the chapter, but there was written that most of the boys who are very constructive, but I have changed it because there was Tom in the sentence. So I have taken Tom. Tom has a burning desire to go somewhere and dig for hidden treasure. So boys, the haunted the house Saturday on approached. So on Saturday, the boys approached the haunted house. On Saturday, the boys approached the haunted house. Entered below man two room the other. The two men entered the room below. The two men entered the room below. And one more thing you have to do, you have to put the full stop at each and every sentence. So fourth one is the pair, the towards river, the move precious their box with. The pair moved towards the river with their precious box. The pair moved towards the river with their precious box. Off in the one number two town's taverns was mystery room. In one of the town's taverns, room number two was a mystery. Room number two was a mystery. You see if Injun Joe Huck follow just him you. So if Huck see Injun Joe, you just follow him. So one correction you have to make it over here. What is it? So let me tell you. It's Injun Joe. So it's not who. So you have to write down Injun Joe. So it is Injun Joe. Injun Joe was the murderer in the story. So if Huck see Injun Joe, you just follow him. It is these words are spoken by Tom to Huck. So the next slide is about what? Which character? Who speaks these words and to whom, when, and where? So, but ghosts only travel around at night. So, Tom Sawyer said these words to the Huckleberry Finn when the Tom was trying to convince. When the Tom was trying to convince, don't use write down they, because it will not be here. So, when the Tom was trying to convince Huck to visit the haunted house for digging to find out treasure, Tom Sawyer said these words to the Huckleberry Finn when the Tom was trying to convince Huck to visit the haunted house for digging to find out treasure. The next was what it is. What is it? Huck whispered these words to Tom when there were two men coming in the haunted house. What is it? Huck whispered these words to Tom when there were two men coming in the haunted house. Dangerous. Spaniard said this when he was talking to Injun in the haunted house. Spaniard said this, or you can say this word, when he was talking to Injun in the haunted house. Man, it's money. Injun said these words to Spaniard when they were digging in the haunted house. So, what is it so? Now, man, it's money. Injun said these words to Spaniard when they were digging in the haunted house. No, number two, under the cross. Injun said these words to the Spaniard when they were at the haunted house. Injun said these words to the Spaniard when they were at the haunted house. Lordy, I don't want to follow him by myself. Huck said these words to the Tom Sawyer when Tom was giving advice to Huck. Huck said these words to the Tom Sawyer when. So the fifth one is Lordy, I don't want to follow him by myself. So Huck said these words to the Tom Sawyer when Tom was giving advice to Huck. Huck said these words to the Tom Sawyer when Tom was giving advice to Huck. So I am moving towards the next slide. So the next is what? Did you understand what? Write short answers to the following questions. So the first question is, what is it that nearly every boy wishes to do once in his life? What is it that nearly every boy wishes to do once in his life? There comes a time in every rightly constructed boy's life when every boy has a burning desire to go somewhere and to discover something and dig for hidden treasure. Next question is, how did the boys become less fearful of the haunted house? How can Tom become less fearful of the haunted house when they reached there and became familiar of the place? So they gave the place a critical and interested examination. So Huck and Tom become less fearful of the haunted house when they reached there and became familiar of the place. So they gave the place a critical and interested examination. Actually, they were become familiar when they went there, so they were become less fearful. Who did Huck think was coming up the path towards the door? At first, Huck thought that Ghost was coming up the path towards the door, so he was scared. Then he saw two men entered the room. At first, Huck thought that Ghost was coming up the path towards the door, so he was scared. Then he saw two men entered the room. Do you understand? Continue. So we are working on the question answer sister. So what made the boys shake in their shoes? So the answer will be the voice of the engine Joe made the boys shake in their shoes because they were scared from this engine Joe. From where did the Spaniard take out the bag? Take out a bag. The Spaniard raised one of the hearthstones in the room. Okay, what made the boys shake in their shoes? The voice of the engine Joe made the boys shake in their shoes. From where did the Spaniard take out a bag? Spaniard raised one of the hearthstones in the room and took out a bag under the hearthstone. So the next question is what? Let me see. While digging, what did Injun Joe knife struck upon? Injun Joe's knife struck upon a box while digging. These are very short question answers, so you don't need to write down so much descriptive here. So where did the man plan to take the box? Man planned to take the box to the Indian Joe's den. It's room number 2 under the cross. It was a mystery. It was not clear in when it was happening. So it will be clear in the end of the chapter. What is it? So next is what? Did you understand? Continue. Which terrible thought occurred to Tom? Tom was having terrible thought of about revenge as Injun Joe talk about revenge there. Tom thought that Injun Joe wants to take revenge from Tom Sawyer because he was appeared against him in the court. Actually, Injun Joe told about the revenge to the Spaniard. So Tom was having terrible thought that might be he was talking about to take revenge from Tom because Tom appeared in the court that and he said that Injun Joe killed Dr. Robinson. So he was worried. Now the question number 9. What mystery surrounded room number 2 of the tavern? What mystery surrounded room number 2 of the tavern? The mystery surrounded room number 2 of the tavern that it was kept locked all the time. And tavern keeper's young son said to the Tom that he never saw anybody go into it or come out of it except at night. So what was happening in that room? Nobody know about that. So I'm moving towards the next question. Question number 10. What advice did Tom give to Huck? So you can make it shorter as well. So the answer of this is Tom gave advice to Huck that the back door of number 2 room of tavern is the door that comes out into that little alley between the tavern and the brick store. If you don't want to write down, you don't need to write this sentence. Huck gets hold of all the door keys he can find, and Tom will take all of Auntie's. And the first dark night, they will go there and try them. Huck will keep a lookout for Injun Joe because Injun Joe said that he was going to drop into the town and look around for one more chance to get his revenge. If Huck see Injun Joe, so what Huck has to do? Huck just follow him. If he doesn't go to that number 2, then it's not the place that Tom and Huck want. So this will be the answer of this question. So I am moving towards the next slide. So further questions. Describe how Tom and Huck approached the haunted house and what were their feelings at that moment. On Saturday, the boys approached the haunted house armed with an old rusty pick and a shovel. When they reached the place, there was something about the dead silence that reigned there under the hot sun, something about the loneliness and sadness of the place that made them afraid for a moment to go inside. These were the feelings of Tom and Huck when they approached the haunted house. What was the appearance like of the two men? So, the appearance of the first man was a ragged, dirty creature with nothing very pleasant in his face. That was Injinjo. The other man, Spaniard, was wrapped in a colored blanket. He had a thick white beard, long white hair flowed from under his white hat, and he wore green goggles. And he was famous that he is deaf and dumb. So I'm moving towards the next slide. So the next slide is further questions. What reason did Injan Joe give for his tiredness? What was the reason did Injan Joe give for his tiredness? Injan Joe planned for the dangerous job with the Spaniard and it made him tired. He became so sleepy and said to Spaniard that it's his turn to watch. Injan Joe planned for the dangerous job with the Spaniard. It made him tired. He became so sleepy and said to Spaniard that it's his turn to watch. What saved the boys from being found by Injan Joe? What saved the boys from being found by Injan Joe? There were two reasons. Injan Joe was moving towards the stairway to search boys because he saw shovel or tools on the floor and it was very neat and clean. So he was amazed where did it come from. So Injan Joe was moving towards the stairway to search boys, but the stairs collapsed under his weight, and he landed on the ground among the ruins of the stairway. And he landed on the ground among the ruins of the stairway. A Spaniard told him, "Let them stay there." Spaniard told him, "Let them stay there, and it will be dark in 15 minutes." Spaniard told him to let them stay there and it will be dark in 15 minutes and they will enable to follow them in dark. That is why the boys were saved from being found by Injunju. That is why the boys were saved from being found by Injunju. What is next? It's time to say you goodbye. Thank you so much. This is the picture of an Indian Joe and he is trying to kill Tom Sawyer. So I think it looks so horrible. Thank you. Bye bye. Hopefully you will like the video.